many conferences, and it's been so nice association with the Dr. Sachdeva. We have learned a lot, and by his graceful knowledge, and I've got the opportunity to introduce him, and I take it as an opportunity. Dr. Sachdeva is a renewed name of the realm of education and has over 48 years of teaching experience. He is a subject expert in the selection of lecturers, and professors of colleges. He has chaired sessions and been the plenary and keynote speaker in many international conferences. He is a member of RAC Board, DAVV, and Central Board of Studies, English, Government of MP. 20 scholars have been awarded PhD under his supervision. Sir has 30 research papers and articles to his name and has edited 4 books published by Hindi Granth Academy. So, and the topic for today is Teaching Pedagogies, Advanced Teaching Pedagogical Methods. Thank you. I hand over the session to Sir. Sir, please kindly go ahead with the session.
Thank you so much for your kind words and cordial invitation
My
to
pleasure,
participate
sir. My pleasure.
in this FDB program. Uh, it's a great pleasure to be here on this platform of IPS Academy, and begin with my salutation to Director of IPS Academy, Achal K. Chaudhary, sir, Ashok K. and Neetu Shrivas, and Meenakshi Joshi, VG Saad, and all the respected faculty members. Uh, Actually, the topic is now what pedagogy is actually. Pedagogy, whether pedagogy is teaching, whether pedagogy is a science, whether it is an act of teaching, or it is an overall act of teaching, what actually it is. So I'll be discussing the pedagogy in connection with, in context, and in connection with the English language also, but there can be some general points of pedagogy. So I'll be sharing with you my PPT. It's very necessary to know what's the difference between education and pedagogy. Education may be to give and receive knowledge, but pedagogy is something different, similar to this, because there are as many as 26 synonyms of the word pedagogy. And we have to understand how pedagogy relates to all these terms. There may be synonyms, but pedagogy, there is no word or substitute or replacement as such for this word pedagogy. And synonyms may be as many as the simplest synonym is teaching or an act of teaching. But pedagogy is encompasses all kinds of, you can say, all kinds of overall teaching activities, teaching attitudes, teaching methods, teaching materials, curriculum, students, learners, pupils, teachers. It encompasses all the aspects under the sun that are related to the act of teaching. It's a science as well, and pedagogy in itself is a very vast ocean of knowledge. It's a very vast branch. Millions of books are there which exist. Pedagogy may be different for teaching history, may be different for teaching science, it may be different for teaching literature or language. Even in language, pedagogy may be unique to teaching vocabulary, to teaching grammar, teaching literature, exploring the literary text, and also teaching what you call the comprehension or the reading. So LSRW skills can be taught. So we have a lot of pedagogies, methods and materials and curriculum and teacher training programs which are always in the full swing by Cambridge boards or by NCRT or by teacher training programs or Oxford or teacher training courses like EFL, ESL, TESOL or ESOL. There are so many approaches and so on. So I'm beginning to share my PPT with you, and let us see that how it pedagogy to English language can be seen. Uh, I hope the screen is visible. You'll be able, just need a little, if you can see my PPT.
Yes, sir,
Hello?
it is visible, sir.
Okay, okay.
Sir, it's visible.
So let me introduce, Dr. Neetu has already introduced me to you. I'm Dr. Ashok Sachdeva, Professor of English here in a government college and also affiliated with Devi Ahilya University. Now, pedagogy is defined by the Oxford English Dictionary as a science of teaching, as it also encompasses the performance of teaching together with the theories, encompasses, it includes all kinds of theories, critical theories, even the beliefs, even the policies, and even the control, even the curriculum planning, everything that comes under the sun is under the pedagogy. Now, what is the key element? Key element is the knowledge of the curriculum. You should have the knowledge of the learners and the students and of all the factors that would affect teaching and learning as such. Now, another, there are several approaches to the definition. Is the approach to teaching in the theory and practice of learning and how this process influences are influenced by learner. So I think in the earlier session, Madam was also talking about the feedback. So, how learners are being influenced and how they influence us, and also the teacher and taught relationship, and all the psychological aspects and all the behavioral and cognitive aspects come under this pedagogy. But pedagogy can be simply an act of teaching, but it's beyond more than that in the sense that it incorporates all kinds of theories, all kinds of approaches and methods and materials, and also the principles of teaching is an academic discipline, as you can see. And in this discipline, for example, when you do B.Ed or M.Ed or especially teacher training courses like Cambridge SOL or TESOL or EFL courses in USA, so you can see our CELTA data courses, as you might be aware of, which are run by British Council or which are run by Cambridge examination boards. You can see that how knowledge and skills are imparted. So their focus is on the methods and materials and principles of teaching. So in educational context, knowledge and skills, how they are incorporated, and also the interactions that take place during learning. So theory pedagogy vary as they reflect different social, political, and cultural contexts. For example, if you are teaching English in India, you have to take into account the political policies, the social approaches, and the various linguistic communities. And you can also have to see the culture, Indian culture as such, and you have to take into the consideration of general Indian English language as far as the pronunciation, accents, and phonology of English is concerned. And if you are teaching it in America or if you are teaching in the European countries or in China, so the pedagogy, practice of pedagogy may vary and the methods and materials may vary. Because teaching English, for example, and teaching English to the speaker of other languages, as we call it, ASOL, might see that teaching English to Germans involves a different kind of pedagogy. Similarly, teaching English to Russians may be different. I was in London teaching a class for 1 year of SOL and college, and there were a combined batch. In the combined batch, there were Gujarati, Sri Lankans, Tamilians, Russians, Germans, and also other East European countries like some people were from Poland. So I thought that some approaches work best for Germans, but they don't for Asians. And some approaches work for the people coming from Poland, or coming from Russians. So, and Indians would have a different kind of approach, like grammar approach or tense approach. So there are various approaches. And for example, you might have heard about the translation approach, direct translation, direct approach, the structure approach, and there are a number of teaching English with grammar, through grammar, and teaching English without grammar. So there can be various native speakers, the framework of L1 learning, which is known as L1 learning, and another is learning where we use English where we teach English as a second language. So Here in this, you can see that pedagogy is the approach to teaching, is a theory and practice of learning. It's an academic discipline, as I have told you. So pedagogy is, in short, is an overall act of teaching, comprehensive act of teaching. So teachers' pedagogy shape their actions. So teachers' actions are included, students' actions are included, their judgments are included, theories of learning come into this, and their understanding what are their needs. There are certain special need-based learning is also there. For example, those who want to be lawyers and they want to be good at English, they need the knowledge of legal English. Or others, engineers might need it as technical English. So depend upon the need based or specific learners, as you can call it. So there are different branches of English learning alone. Conventional Western pedagogies view the teacher as knowledge holder. Okay, even in India or even the Western, teacher is supposed to be the holder of the knowledge, and the student to be the recipient of knowledge. Now, this is the conventional pattern, but in fact, the focus has now shifted from the teacher to the student. But remember, teacher is always in the center. Teacher is always at the focus, and they are student focused teaching, but teachers come in the middle. So teachers' roles have also changed in the pedagogy. They may be demonstrators, they may be facilitators, and whatnot. So pedagogy identify the student as an agent. So student agent and teacher is a facilitator. But teacher in the conventional form, where the teacher is the knowledge holder, still holds. So how the teaching pedagogy is always aiming at improving the teaching quality. Like you can have a dialogue with yourself through a teaching log. Teach for me, I personally feel that teacher is still at the center. Technology, ICT, the use of computer learning, the use of ICT, the use of the modern tools of MOOCs and mobile learning apps are there. They are the means. They are not an end in itself. So they are good servants for us that we need to gear them. We have to use them to our best advantage. But uh, the teacher role cannot be replaced. So there are the uh, efforts of various agencies like NCRT, even in the new education policy of 2020, they are keeping the focus on the teacher training, that the teacher should be well equipped, well knowledgeable, and he should have all the methods and materials and approaches and attitudes and aptitudes to deal with this because you can't replace a human teacher. So teacher is central. He's a key factor. He's the central to all the approaches. So taking the feedback from the students, our pedagogy can be improved. We can have dialogue with the faculty and the dialogue with the peers. So you can see that we have the best approaches incorporated. Now, other approaches we can talk about. These are the general pedagogies, and I'm trying to apply them to the learning of English language or literature as such. One is the constructivists, collaborative learning, where there is more of a group activity, where is integrative, where the people join hands and they integrate themselves to a task, a teamwork, you can say, reflective also, and inquiry based learning also. I'll come to these as being the cognitive based learning because there are two approaches, behaviorist learning and cognitive approaches. So see, the effective pedagogies, they also involve a range of techniques. For example, you are dealing with the whole class, you are dealing with a structured group, it's learning or it is an individual activity, whatever it is. So you can see that nowadays, now in the online classroom mode and using ICT, using the mobile for learning and teaching English, now there has to be an overall reform There has to be a change. Pedagogies have to be metamorphed. There has to be a transition. We are running into a transition stage, and there is a metamorphosis which we can see in the pedagogy. I think somebody's mic is on, so if you can mute yourself because the voice is coming to me. So, and take the diverse needs of a range of learners. So you can see that now pedagogies have to be improved, refined, revised in connection to how we can teach on these online platforms like Google Meet, like this Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or there are other private apps also coming in. So we have to see that the teacher should not be in the traditional role that he is only the one-way speaker. He is a one-way traffic. The teacher is the only speaker, and the students are all the passive listeners. So we have to come out of that, and there various interactive activities on these platforms can be planned. So coming to the so I will name here the father of pedagogy, Piaget, and I will also mention in pedagogy's theories are too many. I would not like to delve deep into the historical perspectives and his chronological development of the theories of learning as such. So I'll not be discussing here the experiments conducted by Skinner or conducted by Pavlov, conducted by so many, but I would like to mention one theory which may seem pertinent to all of you. So you can see, as I told you, the teacher has to play many roles in different contextual situations. There are five distinct roles which we can enumerate. It can be the delegatory style, it can be the authority. About the authority, Madam has just talked about, and the demonstrator style and the hybrid style, which is a mix up of all the approaches. And there are three D's in the teaching style: directing, discussing, and delegating. So I think one method of tutorial method or lecture method has been replaced by so many approaches. In lecture method, only the teacher is a speaker. He imparts the knowledge, he communicates the knowledge, but nothing has to be seen on the reception part. There's a transmission, there's a production, there's a transmission, but the transmission is very well received or not. We have to focus on the reception part also. So, teacher and student focus. So all the other methodologies, they are just a means to an end, including the computer technology, even the high tech world that is at our disposal, that how we have to use them. So the teaching teaching can be, as you can see, in the first person or in the second person, or it can be specific or it can be abstract. Now we have to be sometimes, I must elaborate on this, that some, for example, I talk about phonology of English. Now, if the students learn by themselves, if they refer to the books of phonology, if they refer to the books of phonology, they find it very difficult learning consonants and vowels. They feel a great difficulty in that. So that the job of the teacher is to simplify the things for them, to make the chart simple, to plan simple activities for them, and from the graded activities he can take to the higher activities of learning. So sometimes learning by itself, students who learn by themselves through the books may find it difficult, but the teacher is the one who facilitates, who makes things simple. So, about pedagogy, finally, we can say it is an encompassing term concerned with what a teacher does to influence learning in others. So, all the activities on the part of the teacher are included. That may be psychological, that can be normal, that can be paranormal, that can be the behaviorist approach, that can be through gestures, expression, verbal activities, whatnot. So, pedagogy includes everything, and every teacher is unique, and a pedagogy to every teacher can be unique also. We remember most of the celebrated teachers whom we adore for their unique, approaches, and we couldn't find those approaches in anyone else. I hope I'm audible. I just want to check because I'm one way speaking from here. So just
Yes,
If
sir, you
I'm
are
audible.
clearly audible, sir.
Thank you so much. So the curriculum is there. Now we have to see the interactive part as well. Interactions, experiences, activities, routines, events, planned and unplanned, so many things they come under. So there is the word cognitive and metacognition. I'm discussing about this, the cognitive theory as well, and learning the power skills of the students are good. So the learning becomes independent and they are given with a purpose. Teaching can be improved by myriad ways that and it depends upon the individual capabilities and talents of the teacher. So now coming as we can see, now what are the six approaches to teaching? There can be one-to-one teaching, that one teach, one observe, one teach, one assess, or we can plan group activities like this. There can be a parallel teaching, there can be an alternative teaching. Now what this station teaching and what is this alternative teaching is the occasions where students need specialized attention. Sometimes we conduct, the remedial classes and so on, and there's a team teaching and group teaching also. When I was at CIFL, which is now FLU, lot of emphasis was given where the teacher was a teacher also, a facilitator also, and we were given a lot of group activities based on the problem solving and the applied aspect of the knowledge, and we were required to do certain tasks which improved our critical ability. So whereas we are highly disheartened to see that the kind of education system that we have now, the kind of education system that we have now is, you can see that is based on memory or rote learning, is mugging up or cramming up things. So uh, even at master's level, you are given five questions, and in unit there are two authors, and you are given two questions with internal choice, and you have to attempt any one. So you can see that how difficult it is based on memory. So you score 70%, 80% marks, which are simply based on your memory and rote learning. And by the time 1 or 2 years are elapsed, you tend to forget all the things. And therefore, uh, the education or the teaching which is based on learning is to be discouraged, and which the one that is based on the cognitive learning or a mixed approach or a hybrid approach, or there is a branch system of learning which is a separate discipline in itself, can be harnessed and can be uh, so there will be more questions on testing your critical ability, your analytical ability, or and there should be enough the teaching should not be mechanical or just passive. It should be full of motivation on the part of the teacher. The teacher has a great asset with him, and that is his own personality and the way he can motivate and facilitate easy learning. That's more important. And we therefore in pedagogy we also talk about in this respect, taking into all such considerations, motivation, incidental teaching, or you can say the role of situations, they all contribute to quality assurance. Consistency, transparency, innovative approaches are there. Nowadays, we can appreciate that modern methods of teaching are full of innovation and innovative approaches, as you can see. So, modern teaching methods are not only the lecture methods or one way sort of a thing, they focus more on collaborative learning, space learning. Sometimes there is a flipped classrooms, self learning, use of games, gamification, and also the crossover learning. And you might have heard about the vocabulary games, crossword puzzles, picture and image elaboration, grammar drills, and discovering and identify key items through the charts, tables, and diagrams. There was one English teacher I met. He was teaching for Excel classes in London. So what he was doing is he was planning different activities for teaching English from English to English, English through English medium, because he can't have he He's not supposed to know Russian, German, or whatever. So one English teacher, his name was David, what he did, he put all kinds of charts on the walls, maybe geography charts, maybe the world map, and various other things. And then he would plan activities according to that. And he gave tasks to the students to find out the answers of the questions that he prepared for them. And the students were moving from chart to chart and they were finding the answers. And in this way, they were learning the vocabulary and they were learning the grammar and they were communicating with each other. Sometimes the activities were conducted single handed, one student, or it was a pair of two students, or sometimes group activities. And similarly, grammar were done. And also the use of tables, diagrams, and so on. So we can say there are two methods of teaching and man methodologies in chronicle. One is the grammar translation. I think there is disturbance coming. The mic has to be. I hope you are able to see my screen. So one
Yes,
is
sir.
the
It's
direct grammar translation. Now here I would talk about that direct method is discovering the importance of speaking. In grammar translation, now we have to see that translation is also a very potential field. For example, if suppose here I take Hindi as a language and English, learning Hindi to English or any other language like Telugu or Tamil to English, one to one, translation is seen. But in translation has its own challenges. For example, sometimes in it is not necessary to have the sentence being grammatical alone. It is not necessary that a sentence has to be grammatical alone. What is more important is the sentence need not to be grammatical alone. What is important is a sentence has to be appropriate also. So in modern grammar, appropriateness is also seen as a key feature. For example, if I give you a sentence in Hindi, I can see that there may be other um, participants from South India or the other parts of India, but I'm using Hindi because Hindi can be a convenient language. If I say a sentence like uh, mhm, any one sentence like कहिए आपका यहाँ कैसे आना हुआ. If I ask you to translate this, you will say that how did you come here? But that will be rude, very rude. Why have you come here? Will be rude. So there will be a particular way of saying this. So translations are correct, but they are not appropriate. Appropriateness is a must. For example, if I say Chomsky ate fried lizards that were flying high in the sky, nothing is wrong with the grammar, but syntactic part is there and semantic part is there. But if we coordinate these two, we don't, a sentence is that which need to have a sense coming out of this. Now I give you another sentence. For example, if I say, आपकी यहाँ दाल नहीं गलेगी. I'm using this, I beg sincere apologies for using Hindi just to give you an example of translation and to convey that being a grammatical is one thing and being a correct sentence and acceptable sentence is another thing. So, for a sentence, in order to be acceptable, you need two things. One is it has to be grammatical, it has to be appropriate. So, grammaticality and appropriateness is both important. मैं कहूँगा आपकी यहाँ दाल नहीं गलेगी. Let me see the literal translation of this. The translation field has its own challenges. Like you need to be aware of the idioms, phrases, metaphors, proverbs, and various other English words being used in the situations as such. आपके यहाँ दाल नहीं गलेगी तो मैं कहूँगा दाल means pulse. गलेगी नहीं तो dissolve or melt, your pulse will not dissolve here. Sentence is grammatically correct. But does it make any sense in English? Obviously not, because the sentence. So you will have a different way of saying this in English, that you will not have a smooth selling here. या आप मेरे से जलते हैं. You are cooking from me or you are burning from me will not be. The translation is correct. We have proper subject, verb, object. There is a complete subject, verb, concord, but it's not. So you have to say that you are jealous of me or you are envious of me. So in this way, you can see the grammar and appropriateness to be grammatical and appropriateness both have to be considered. So here I want to say that the teacher very important because the teacher has to be given the not only the pedagogies are important because pedagogies also include the proper updated knowledge, the proper content. Updated knowledge has to be with the teacher. So the importance of teacher cannot be denied. Next, I like to say that there is a audio video lingualism also. Sometimes we are teaching through audio, we are teaching through video, and there are humanistic approaches also. A range of holistic methods applies to language learning. And there's a we all teach in engineering colleges, in professional colleges, we all teach communicative language teaching. Yeah, and that is the modern, which is known as CLT, which is highly immersed branch nowadays. So you can see that there are uh, so you can see that there are many. So I'm trying to show you a chart. uh, I'll come to the chart later on, that's why I stopped sharing the screen. Now I would like to tell that these instructive strategies are governed by the learner's background experience. So you have to see that the student is coming from which background, which state, which diversity, which environment, and what are the learning goals. And therefore, that have to be. And traditional method, it focuses more on the memorization and recitation techniques, mugging up, cramming. And there is a model, uh, but the modern method is focusing on the critical thinking, problem solving, decision making skills. So our questions, as you can see at undergraduate level in Devi Ahilya University or any state university or for that matter, the questions are not based on critical thinking or problem solving. They simply ask you to write an essay type answer or objective type or short answer type questions, which you can manage by just mugging up the answers and managing like that. So modern constructivist approach to teaching, it involves more of interaction, more of give and take, more of imparting and receiving has to be there. Now, I would like to tell you that what should be then responsive teaching strategies. Sometimes nowadays I feel one difficulty that while I'm teaching online teaching at Google Meet or Zoom to my own students of MA, where I continue to speak, then I'm trying to encourage interaction from them. So I'm planning different sorts of activities depending upon the level of the students. If they are first year level students, you can ask them to uh, read the lines which you have just read them, or read the lines or repeat the lines so that there is reinforcement. Or the students are at bit BA second or third level, what you can do is, for example, I have explained one set of lines. I ask them to repeat the explanation which I did. And also you can bring in more games also during this. Of course, you should not deviate. There should be no digressions, but you should focus to the learning item that has to be seen. And then you have to see the word problems. You have to integrate relevant word problems. You can interview students. You can ask students and encourage them to ask the questions, and then you can answer. And other activities can also be planned. So you can gamify your lessons. You can call on each student. So all these things are. Now I'm going to tell you about that. Coming to the language part now. Coming to the language part, I would say that suppose if you are a teacher of a grammar or teacher of a vocabulary. So there are three types of grammars you can say. A teacher of language, because I'm keeping in focus the teachers of English language. I can see that you need to be aware of three before you give them exercises, before you can ask them questions. You need to be types of grammar. One is G1. G1 is that grammar. Another is G2, and third is G3. They all come in teaching pedagogies because teaching pedagogies uh, require you to explore the correct piece of information or mixing up the various learning items together and to have the updated knowledge. For example, in G1 grammar is the grammar that is associated with the native speaker. For example, an English student, native born, native speaker of English, a child, he doesn't know the grammar. If you ask him what's the definition of noun, what's the definition of pronoun, adjective, adverb, how many tenses are there in English? You are a good Hindi speaker. If I ask you what is Sandhi, what is Samas, a common man may not be able to explain these terms. But uh, but he speaks very well Hindi. He speaks English very well because he's a native speaker. He doesn't know the grammar of the language. So he is the user of the language. It's his mother tongue. That's the grammar, the inbuilt grammar, that L1 acquisition that operates within his mind. Because our minds are so biologically programmed that it imbibes, assimilates all the rules of the grammar automatically. And the second one is G2 grammar, which we learn. We being our mother tongue is Hindi or Gujarati or Punjabi or Telugu, Tamil. Then we are taught English as a second language. And sometimes the kind of grammar that we teach them is G2 grammar because that is a conscious knowledge of the grammar, conscious awareness that this is noun, this is verb, this is adjective, and this is so through grammar that is another. And G3 is an advanced grammar which makes you a linguist, a scientist. In G1, suppose you are driving a scooter, you are driving an Activa, driving a car, you are a user of that vehicle, you doesn't know how it works, how it operates. You're not bothered about it. In G2, you know a little bit. But in the third, you know all the mechanism when it stops working or it your vehicle has a breakdown, then you know something is wrong with the plug or something is wrong with the carburetor, and you are an engineer. So G3 is that type of a grammar. So teachers of English sometimes, because they have the conscious knowledge of the grammar and they are imparting teaching to their students, so they know this G3 also. So there are various approaches, pedagogies. One, they are focusing on G1 and they give you different set of exercises and they teach you English to English without taking you into your own mother tongue. Another is G2 translation method, as you can see. G3, you come to know the science of languages at the advanced level. You know what noun phrases are, what verb phrases are, what adjective phrases are, clauses are, and so on. You become the conscious learner in that way and the teacher. I would also like to tell you about that traditional grammar that we have been, that the teacher have to be updated with the traditional grammar as well. You know, traditional grammar, traditional grammar is full of fallacies. Traditional grammar is full of fallacies and false notions and myths. Why so? Because traditional grammar is not adequate, but we are still teaching the old grammar, grammar by Rain and Martin, grammar by F.T. Wood in our classrooms. So, a teacher of language, while designing his pedagogy and approaches, has to not only gear up his knowledge, harness his knowledge, update his knowledge, involve various question, mix hybrid questions in a branched system, that some of them focus on behaviorist model of learning and some of them focus on cognitive model of learning. G1, G2, G3 grammar has to be considered, and so vocabulary has to be. Now, for example, if you have to be simple user of English, if I give you a vocabulary of 200 words or just 500 words or maximum 1000 words of the active list of verbs and nouns, content words, and I give you just 20 structures, you can almost explain anything in English on earth. You can express yourself well in English without actually going into the grammar. So, teaching with and through grammar and teaching without grammar. Another approach is this: many of us don't know what tenses are, but traditional grammar is full of fallacies. Let me draw your attention, let me draw your attention to these fallacies. That how far are we justified? We are focusing more on the ICT tools, educational tools, and the mobile applications and apps, but we need to revise and update our knowledge, and we have to see that we have to come out of the obsolete and the the, the knowledge that has been almost discarded. For example, in English, I'm applying this to English language because we need to incorporate the latest research, the latest finding. Now, even these researches are not very new, they are also very old. What are the fallacies? We teach in connection with the grammar and language. Noun is the, what is the definition of noun? Noun is the name of a person, place, or a thing. Definition is totally wrong. Only the person, place, or a thing. What about happiness? What about sorrow? So we call them collective nouns, abstract nouns, and so on. This is how we, but the definition itself is inadequate. Adjective is a word that qualifies a noun. What about adjective phrase? Adverb is a word that qualifies an adverb. What is an adverbial clause? What is an adverb? Our traditional grammar is not adequate to explain all these. Um, our traditional grammar is not able to explain the ambiguities also in concrete, verifiable terms. If I say a sentence, they called her a taxi, has two meanings. Or the police were told to stop drinking after midnight has got as many as six meanings. But our old grammar is not able to explain these ambiguities. Or if I say, he left her heart broken, has two meanings or three meanings. He left her heart broken. So our old grammar is not able to explain these uh, terms fully well. So what we have to do here is, in this case, uh, we also say that what is tense? Tense. What is tense? You can say tense is time. What is present tense? Present tense is that tense which tells you about present time. What is past tense? Past tense is that tense which tells you about past time. What is future tense? Future tense is that tense which tells you about future time. So here we are directly corresponding tense with the time in our old grammar, traditional grammar, grammar given by Rain and Martin, F.T. Wood, and all such grammar which we are still teaching in the schools. So these definitions are wrong. That tense is a different thing, time is a different thing. Tense is a grammatical category, time is a semantic category because time relates to the meaning part, conceptual part. Time is a concept. So as a semantic, semantic means meaning, syntactical means construction, grammatical construction. So tense is grammatical and time is semantic. And the definition is very wrong because there, how many tenses are there in English? Anybody can say from the participants? How many tenses are there in English? This will also check whether I am reaching out to you or not in terms of my voice and my communication. How many tenses are there in English? Anyone would say?
Three tenses.
Yeah, you said that there are three tenses because this is what we have been teaching to all our students. There are three tenses: present tense, past tense, and future tense. This
Yes.
is a myth. This is a fallacy, and this myth has been broken almost 100 years ago, but still in Indian classrooms we are teaching there are three tenses. Present tense shows present time, past tense shows past time, future tense shows future time. Not correct, because
12 or 16. Sometimes it's
there
written
are
said
just
12 or
two
16.
there are just two tenses in English. Just two tenses. One is the present tense, another is the past tense. Or you can say there is only one marked tense in English. If one is present, the other is non-present. If one is past, the other is non-past. I'll prove this to you. I'll prove this to you very soon. I'm giving you a sentence through my PPT. Uh, for example, let me take you. I go is present tense. And one more thing, any tense can show any time. Any tense can show any time. This is proved in grammar. This is already there in grammar. This is in our day-to-day speech. But still we say that present tense tell about present time. No, present tense will tell you about present time also, past time also, and future time also. And past tense will also show you about present time, past time, and future time. So time is a different thing. I give you a set of examples for this. You know there are three verbs in English: go, went, gone. So go is the first form of the verb. Went is the second form, past form. Where is the future form? There is a past participle form, which is go, went, gone. Work, worked, and worked. So where is the future form? There is no future form. I go, you will say that when I say I shall go is a future. Go is not a future. Shall is only an auxiliary verb. Shall is in the present form. In the past tense of shall is should. I will go. You will say will is in the present form. The past tense will is would, and third form is also would. And sometimes we use this would for communicating present time also. Would you mind closing the window? Can is in the present form. Could is in the past form. Where is the future form here? So you can say that, could you lend me your pen? Could you please give me your pen? So we are using could here, isn't it? So the past tense for referring to the immediate present. So I think I'm showing you now, I'm showing you a sentence now which will clarify this issue. So you can see that sharing the screen here once again for you. So I'm switching on between sharing and non-sharing in between. So you can see there are three types of grammar. I hope the screen is visible to you. There are three types of
Yes, sir.
grammar: G1, G2, and G3. So we have discussed about the traditional grammar as versus modern grammar. Traditional grammar is prescriptive because it prescribes the rules of the grammar. But modern grammar is descriptive because it describes anything that is actually taking place. It should describe all the phenomena, all the language used, whether in American English or in Australian English or Indian English. It should be descriptive and should account for that. Our old grammar is it has just set down the rules. No, you have to follow this. You have to use I with shall and you with will or whatever, or you have to speak only in this manner. So noun is so these definitions are all wrong, as you can see, and have fallacies that tense and time is the same thing, is a big fallacies, as I told you. So tense is a grammatical category and time is a cement. And now I show you a sentence which you can find here. As I told you, there are two tenses in English. This is the sentence. If I say, I visit my relatives in America next summer show the future time. But the tense which I am using here is present simple tense, present indefinite tense. I am using here present indefinite tense to show future time. So we need to be clear in our pedagogy in inculcating these things through grammatical exercises, because the content that I am discussing is also undergraduate year one semester 1, 2, 3, or first year, second year, third year. These things are being taught in schools also. But we have to tell them that there are two tenses in English. Here, I visit my relatives in America next summer. And when you say, I'm visiting my relatives in America next summer, here I'm using present continuous tense to show future time, next summer. Next summer is yet to come, is winter now. The third sentence is, I'm going to visit my relatives in America next summer. Here I'm using the form going to. And then you have the use of colorful future. I shall visit my relatives. According to the old grammar, the last two sentences, I shall and I uh, will be called in the future tense. But actually, they all sentences show future time. And all are in present tense. I'm telling you that all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences, they're all in present tense and future time. So, what is the difference in all these sentences? Any one of you can explain? I visit my relatives in America next summer. Anyone can explain the meaning of this? What's the difference between I visit and I'm visiting? Can anybody explain? Yes, please. I welcome any one of you to please. I visit my relatives in America next summer. I invite anyone.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Yes, sir.
I am visiting means it is present continuous. I am doing
Okay.
this right now.
Yeah, that I told you already that it is present continuous. But why is the difference in meaning in both the expressions?
I visit means I already visit the place or things.
No, in that case, I would write, I have visited my relatives in America. That will also be a present tense, but present perfect tense because the
Yeah.
action has just been completed. So that will still be another sentence which I can write here. I have visited my relatives, or I have been visiting my relatives. Those are the forms of the present tense only.
Okay.
From these five forms at the moment, I want to know the difference between I visit and I am visiting.
Hello, sir. Can I say something?
Yes, yeah. Please welcome, sir. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. I'm Dr. Naveen, and I just want to say I visit. That means I am regular visiting, and I
Uh,
was visited many times, maybe. But I'm visiting. That means I'm going to visit. It is not sure कि you have visited or not.
okay. Well, I appreciate your answer, but I still
Thank you,
differ
sir.
in the exact meaning. Thanks for your
Okay.
suggestion. I
Thank you,
would
sir.
invite anyone else to please clarify this because we are already teaching these things in our schools, but we are teaching in the wrong framework. We are teaching in the framework of three tenses in English, but we need to teach them in the two framework. That is a part of our pedagogy also because we need to incorporate right methods, right materials, and so on. Yes, please. Uh, who else will volunteer, please? I welcome any one of you, please. Can I ask Sharma to please clarify this? I'm not sure whether you're all teachers of English or not, but and that's why I'm taking basic things of English. Tense. So let me clarify this. Um, I'm coming back to the. I'm coming back to the. I visit my relatives. I visit my relatives in America next summer. We are using here present simple tense to show future time. This is clear cut proof. It means the program is fixed and it cannot change. चाहे आंधी आए तूफान आए बारिश आए the program is fixed, it cannot change. I'm visiting my relatives next summer shows that though my program is fixed, but it can change subject to certain condition. If is a COVID-19 is spreading, the flights have stopped. Naturally, I cannot visit. So that is shows that my program is fixed. Many people had their program fixed for visiting America, but in March, COVID came and their flight tickets lay unutilized. And the airline is refunding them after declared 3 4 months after. I'm going to visit just shows your intention. You will or not is a different issue, but just shows intention. I shall visit is the normal future tense as we call it. Shall is in the present tense. You can also, if you replace shall with should, I should visit America, there the sentence will still be in the present tense. If you say I will visit, shows more willpower on your part. But if you say I would visit America next summer, shows your willingness, but that is still a present tense. So you can see that this present tense can show future time. So any tense can show this thing that we need to properly give the correct information to our students. This may relate to vocabulary, this may relate to grammar, teaching of the grammatical items. This may relate to phonology also, phonology of English or other such concepts. Now, I take you to another past tense, how past tense can be used. For example, if I say, uh, I'm using past tense for showing present times. I wish I could do it. I wish I were a bird and would fly in the sky. The tense is the past tense, but showing the future time or the present time as such. So you can see that here in this case, uh, we have such notions and that the teacher, how upgradation and the proper training of teacher, that's why new education policy and all the teacher training program, they focus on this pedagogy in this way. I'm sharing the screen with you once again, and uh, here I'm trying to show you what are the problems with the old grammar. I hope the screen is visible to you, PPT is visible to you. What are the fallacies of traditional grammar? One is the Latinate fallacy. In the old grammar, we apply the grammatical model of Latin to explain the grammar of English. This is the trouble with the old grammar. But in modern grammar, we are applying the framework of English only to explain English. So that is the Latinate fallacy. They say because Latin was higher than English, so in order to achieve the perfection and accuracy, strict rules of grammar, in English we applied this Latinate model. Huh? Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Audible, you're
Yes, sir,
audible.
audible. You're
Yes,
audible,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Actually, one telephone call was coming. I thought it is from you that I'm not being audible. The logical fallacy means we are applying the logic. For example, eh, one example will be able, because a time constant is there. One example will be able to clarify this. Logical fallacy is this. We say it is more rounder, or the earth is revolving round. So revolving and round is a logical fallacy. But according to old grammar, it is a logical fallacy. Mixing with different criteria. Sometimes in old grammar, you will see different criteria as being jumbled. Old grammar is not explicit, not transparent. As I told you that it is not able to explain ambiguities. Like he left her heartbroken, she gave her dog biscuits have many meanings. So ambiguity cannot be explained. One is the written form fallacy. Old grammar thinks that the written form is perfect, written form is accurate, and a spoken form is the corrupt version of the written form. So when we write English, that is more exact, more perfect, even more perfect, more exact are terms
Hello. Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir,
So the
yes.
written, so the written form fallacy is that, but our modern grammar says that speech is primary, writing is secondary, and modern grammar describes all the language variations of the spoken form. But old grammar focuses on the written form and it considers written form as being perfect. Prescriptive fallacy, because old grammar is prescriptive. They say that no, you should put does with he only. But in many communities, if they are using he do, so old grammar would account them ungrammatical, but the modern grammar would provide an explanation for that. Historical fallacy, and there are other language variations as well, which we can consider. Now I'm coming to the Gestalt theory. I'm not, because of time constraint, I will not be discussing the experiments conducted by Skinner, the experiments conducted by Pavlov and other, but I want to mention this Gestalt theory. It's a theory about perception and problem solving process. Because we are still following the model of behaviorist model of learning, which should be used only where it is actually required. Um, for example, for school children, primary, nursery, but at higher levels, when the students come into the secondary classes or in the college education, higher education, why should we insist on this rote learning, memory test? Okay, क्या हुआ? Any problem? Okay. It began actually just Germany with experience of Max Wolfgang Kohler and Kurt Kafka. Kohler's experiments with apes were conducted during the years 13 and 17, 1913 to 1917. I would like to mention them. A bunch of bananas was attached to the ceiling of a cage in which an ape was kept. The bananas were out of reach of the ape, and the ape had to use a box kept inside the box in order to reach the lure, the attraction. By trial and error, the ape learned to use the box to achieve its purpose. Then Kohlberg replaced the box with a long stick. The ape also learned to use his stick. Most dramatic, if the if stick using experiment was in problem mastered by an intelligent chimpanzee, which joined two sticks to make them long enough to reach the bananas. You feel the difference here. Monkey, ape, and chimpanzee. See the approach. So our students may also have different capabilities in this way. So the whole process was slow in the first instance, but once the chimpanzees learned how to make use of the available resources to get what is wanted, the problem is solved. Now, this is the key feature. Chimpanzee learned how to make use of available resources. Now, would next you see experiments involved confronting the chimpanzee with a problem and providing relevant material to solve it. After surveying the various possibilities, the animal would suddenly get the insight into the instrumental value of the tools provided. Now he is beginning to understand the importance of tools, resources available around it. Gestalt psychologists did not reject the method of introspection and insight. So, as opposed to behaviorist model of learning, which is based on copying the behavior, copycatting the behavior, here emphasis was on developing the insight and introspection, analysis, and critical ability. They thought that the SR psychology concentrate stimulus and response psychology. SR means concentrated on the examination of small units. So it actually takes place in bits. Gestalt psychologists considered the whole act to give meaning to the smaller parts. Means we have to focus on smaller parts. There is one Japanese method also, which is, I forget the name, that you learn in bits by small pieces, and you accomplish your big goals and big tasks by performing smaller tasks in the beginning. Their their interrelations with one another and the whole. So the process of coordination, that we need to coordinate, and we have to see the thing in some total aspect. And you can see that new education policy of 2020 also focuses on this. This school of psychology stressed the importance of the organism's perception of the whole form and its understanding of the organization. In Kohler's experiments, form and its, for example, the apes perceive the whole pattern of the organization, and in doing so, they could got the insight into the solution of the problem. See how the solution is discovered. So there are many grammatical vocabulary exercises, and even in other subjects like physics, chemistry, applied sciences are okay. Even in literature, we can have questions framed on critical ability, problem solving sort of the things. They give you an insight. The official founder of the digital movement, Wertheimer, in a class paper produced translated in 1938, he describes how we group together certain stimuli and how we structure a visual field in our own way. So this is very important. And next is, so attempts were made to bring together all the subordinate laws of perception and generalization into the comprehensive general law, which was called the law of Pregnaza. So this, I think, I felt that a little mention is needed about these these approaches of the learning pedagogies, because most of the pedagogies are based on certain such models like behaviors, cognitive, mix, and so on. This law states that psychological organization tends to be good, just our good figures as determined by the subsidiary laws. So sum total has to be seen, and in terms of regularity, simplicity, stability, symmetry, and so on. So coordination and sum total. This means in perceiving an object of situation, our senses tend to eliminate irregularities and tend to see a pattern. So only then we'll be able to see a whole pattern, a whole form, and under the main are four subordinate laws: law of proximity, law of similarity, law of common direction, and law of simplicity. So you can see that many of the questions you can categorize questions that are already framed under testing and evaluation. You will see that even the big show KBC is coming, Kaun Banega Karodpati. You can see the questions for 10 marks, questions for 20 marks, questions for 100 marks, and question for 1 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees. You can see a gradation. That law of proximity is similarity, common direction, and simplicity. So you can assort the assorted types of sentences and exercises you can choose. Now talk about the behaviorist model of, we do not altogether reject this model, but it has its own importance. But the trouble is that our education is by and large hinges upon this behaviorist model. You can pass your B.Ed, you can pass your MA in English or MA in history just on the basis of memorizing the key answers. So other behaviorists believe that all organisms exhibit behavior, and they are capable of I didn't tell you the experiments conducted for behaviorist model of psychology or learning. So we are discussing more on the cognitive. So the implications of the behaviorist model of learning are, Language is learnt only through use or repeat. So those teachers who believe in this, they say that they believe that we only learn through use, practice, or repetition by hard labor, by diligence. We can only learn through diligence or hard labor or repetition or memorizing. And they say that production of learning is dependent upon a meaningful situation. So they focus more on the behaviorist model of learning. Whereas the cognitive school of psychology, they are based on SR response, stimulant, and response. Their reaction is called response, and the factor that stimulates it is a stimulus. So, in order to get the desired response, the organism should have sufficient motivation. And that is why you can understand the role of motivation on the part of the teachers. So, motivation in itself is again a very broader area or spectrum. It involves number of attitudes and aptitudes and strategies, that how best you can plan your motivation. And with motivation, if you can use or practice and apply behaviorist model and apply the cognitive model, and then you can see that. Now, what are the implications of the cognitive model of learning? In the cognitive model of learning, a new situation, you encounter a new situation, as you could see in case of chimpanzee. He recognizes new situation and tries to cope with it, try to do the problem solving. He analyzes it, tries to identify the elements, components, tools, resources all around, and then we apply our own mind. And then you can compare the new situation. You can relate it to your own experience. And then you can, this is how the learning should take place. And then you have a plan in your mind, and he tests the plan. If it doesn't work, abandons it, evolves another plan. So one plan doesn't work, you can switch over to the another plan. So psychologists, psycholinguists, and the grammarians and the teachers of pedagogy, they stress the importance of uh, the role of learning, role also the environment, and they say that only the human species, which you could see in chimpanzee, human species are still higher. So human species can learn a language. Animals cannot learn a language because language is uh, language is species specific and species uniform. Language is species specific. It is specific to human beings only, and it is uniformly available. Whether you are literate, illiterate, educated, uneducated, even the person is sane or insane, even the mad people, insane people, they are highly eloquent, they are highly versatile, and the language that comes out of their heart and their mind and through the tongue is highly rhetoric, highly creative. So even the mad people are equipped with this language. And this language is corpus based. It is based on the corpus, the junk of material that is already available, the language that is already available in the spoken form and the written form. That is the corpus. Of course, it is corpus based, but it is not corpus bound, because a language has the ability to utter infinite number of sentences, infinite, unlimited number of sentences, which you have not uttered before, which you have not heard before. That is why many of the dialogues in the movies, they appeal you. The words are well known, common, simple words, but the way they are said stylistically, the construction they are woven into, the words that they are used, they impress you. Even the creative writing also has this, that language is corpus based but not corpus bound. So only the human beings have this ability, and language learning is an inevitable process. Even the dullest child cannot help learning at least one language. And the mind of a child is so biologically programmed. If you expose a child in the initial stages, initial years to simultaneously to three languages, four, five languages, and throw him into all these five languages, then he would learn all the languages with equal capabilities and he will have equal competence in all those languages. So they have an inbuilt system, and they have the timetable for language learning. Automatically it imbibes. So it is a, this is how you can see. Uh, for example, I show you a diagram now which shows that I'm back to screen sharing again. I want to show you to prove that traditional grammar has to be discarded and pedagogies are already in place where it is encompassing these various psycholinguistic theories of learning. But I'm showing you this diagram. For example, the old grammar says that noun is the name of a person, place, or a thing. But it does not explain what a noun phrase is. That there are five types of noun phrases. As you can see, a noun phrase has a predeterminer, determiner, ordinal, quantifier, adjective phrase, and also the classifier. So you can see if I say all these first four very nice Usha fans, for example. This is the analysis of the titles of O. Henry's short stories. The title is The Last Leaf, or you can see The Four Furnished Room, for example, whatever. You can see determinal, ordinal, and so on coming into it. This is the second type of NP is this. If I say a man on the bridge across the river near the village is a big noun phrase. A tall man in a long overcoat with collar turned up to his ears. Our old grammar does not explain this, but the modern grammar is able to explain this noun phrase. That in noun phrase, the first left wing shows the first kind of NP, and the second wing shows you that in NP, noun phrase consists of a preposition and a noun phrase and a preposition, and a preposition phrase consists of a preposition and a noun phrase again. So it is unending, it is recursive, and it keeps on going. This is the third type of NP, as you can see. Here, two NPs are coordinated with. So similarly, we can explain this is the fourth type of NP, and you see the gift of Magi, or you can see the ramble of Alphasia. So the ramble of Alphasia, the ramble is a noun phrase, of Alphasia has a preposition phrase in it, of is preposition, and again noun phrase has a noun Alphasia. So you can see our modern grammar is a, I'm just showing you, no need to go in detail technical. I don't know how many of you are language teachers here in this, but I can show you these are the various this is the analysis of these noun phrases in the short stories of which I have analyzed in the short stories of O. Henry. O. Henry, you know, if we do the stylistic analysis and how we can teach short stories for language learning, so you can see that in O. Henry's short stories, he his all the stories are based on noun phrases because it's a narrative style. Verbs are very short and simple, finite verb. Most of the time, he's using only one verb or a finite verb, not too many complicated verbs. But he is using too many noun phrases. So I have conducted this study of noun phrases and what is the purpose and what do they communicate and how they can be used in language learning. I'm showing you now a chart which I skipped earlier in the beginning. I'm coming back to this chart now, which I was talking about the traditional and grammar method various pedagogies of language learning, methods of learning. So we have to focus on methods, materials, teacher-based strategies, student-focused strategies, and the ICT, the technology, and the online platforms. So a lot of strategies have to be done. Neetu madam, I think I'm supposed to continue up to 1:15, isn't it?
అప్పలమ్మలాగా తయారయ్యేస్తున్నారు
Hello, madam.
బాగా గట్టుకున్న వాళ్ళు
Can I continue for 5 minutes more? Can I continue
Hello.
for 5 minutes more?
Sir, you have still have time, sir. Please,
Okay.
sir, go ahead. Please, sir.
Now, these were the, I hope screen is visible to you. Hmm? Grammar translation.
మీరు చిన్నపిల్లలు
Yes, sir, it is
Gra-
visible.
grammar translation. Grammar translation is based on liter. Here the method is what, focus is what, and characteristics are what. So let me tell you what are the grammar translation. Here translate from English to your native language. This is the characteristic. In direct method, everyday spoken language, student learns student learns by associating meaning directly in English. So I think here you can see a little cognitive approach coming in between. Audiolingual method, you're listening and speaking drills and pattern practice. Here I think usage and practice behaviorist model will apply. Let us to cognitive approach. Here we are learning the rules of grammar through usage. For example, you are giving the use of the language and learning the rule of the grammar, not teaching the rule of the grammar first and then teaching the sentence. Rather than, for example, if you give your students a sentence that I am fed up with my life, and you ask them to make many more sentences with this structure, choosing another subject and object. You have to change the subject and object. What they will do? The 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 Indian audience, Indian telephone callers are fed up with Amitabh Bachchan's voice. This is a creative sentence you have made. Other people are fed up with listening to the new government declarations. So you are changing the subject and substituting the subject and object. And from this, now they can devise the rule of the grammar, at which grammatical item they are. First, ask them to make sentences. This technique worked best with Germans in my personal. And then there is a silent way. Silent way. Here the student are interacting and teacher is now silent and he is allowing the student to. And one is the suggestopedia, means you are meaningful text and vocabulary, you are giving them clues and hints in the relaxed atmosphere, and there could be a little music also to encourage them. And then there is a community language learning. They are based on the cognitive methods. And then how you can teach comprehension, speaking delayed until students are ready, meaning clarified. So comprehension you can teach. And what about CLT? Most of our teachers in professional colleges, they are teaching CLT. So interaction, authentic communication, and negotiating meaning means understanding English through active student interaction, role play. Many of us are already doing role plays and games, information and gaps filling. Then there is a content based task based and participatory approaches. That is what is being communicated. And there is a content based. And then there are learning strategies that teach how to learn. Now this focuses on the methods and approaches. Pedagogy works here best. So uh, you can see that this is how I'm coming directly to the conclusion now. Teachers can benefit from the theories advanced by these schools of psychology. Behaviorist model of learning, cognitive model of learning. The learner has to learn language item by item. This one way. Sufficient practice. This doesn't apply only to language but to all subjects. And from cognitivism, the teacher can learn that mechanical learning is unproductive because most of the time we have mechanical learning, which should be discouraged. And learners should be helped to derive their own rules of the language, as I talked to you. Let them frame the rules on their own. Let their uh, let their knowledge exploration, let there be exploration of knowledge, discovery of rules on their part. Cognitivism has helped to put the focus on the learners. So it focuses more on the learner, but of course, the teacher is still central to the whole issue. So, learning is much more important than teaching. So, of course, teaching is also important, but sometimes over teaching may lead to less reception. Over teaching does indigestion because receptivity has to be ensured. And it is best that the people learn most often by doing things. So, cognitivism focuses on learn by doing. So, I'm stop sharing again. And so, with this, I stop my lecture. I have consumed 1 hour, 90 minutes full to my best advantage. And uh, I understand there has to be time for interaction as well. So I thank you, Dr. Neetu Shrivas, Dr. Meenakshi Joshi, and VG Saad sir, and my old student who was here, Dr. Rajan Singh Chauhan, and uh, Dr. Chaudhary, Asha Chaudhary, Achal Chaudhary sir, and the directors and the principals for giving me this precious opportunity to interact with you. But I'm sorry that all the time you have been listening to me, and I had little chance to listen to you. Yes, please. Thank you so much, madam. Now I'm open to discussion if you want.
Yes, anybody wants to have questions? Is there any doubts? So you can go up. The participants. I hope there is no question, sir. That was
No
wonderful session.
questions? No, no.
Did not get it.
It's good on my part that there's no question. I think the participants
That was a
are
wonderful
feeling very
session, sir.
hungry. It's a lunchtime
Hello,
now, so maybe.
hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, am
Yes.
I audible?
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, hello, this is Asra from Hyderabad. Sir, could you
Okay.
please explain those three Ds actually, the directing, the discussing, and delegating?
Yeah, directing is, there's nothing much special in these terms. Directing is means you are directly communicating with the students, and discussing is interactive part where you are discussing with the students and they are discussing with you by means of questionnaire, interaction, question answers, interviews, debates, group discussion. There's a spontaneity in that,
Okay.
and so it involves lot of discourse and conversation and sharing of knowledge in discussion. So one is the direct approach, one is the discussion approach, and another is the delegating, where you are delegating the responsibility. Uh,
Yes.
One student or pair or a group of students, whether the two students can interact or two groups can interact, and you are delegating them. For example, as I mentioned, the activity of the exploring discovery through the charts. So here,
Yes.
delegating them some responsibility to find out and conduct their task and find out the desired information.
Information. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It was good listening to you.
Thank you so much. Now I would wait for your further instruction.
हाँ जी sir.
Yes.
So I think it's time. The time is
Okay.
over. So
Yeah.
let's
Thank you so
move on
much.
for the lunch. So that was really wonderful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much. Thank you.
participants. It's really wonderful to have you here, sir, always.
Thank you so much.
So thank
I
you,
don't know.
participants.
I don't know whether this fulfills the needs of your FDP or it was not in keeping with the objectives. of FDP. I don't know whether the teachers are all from all disciplines or language. So just I was talking half general and half language, so that is why. So I apologize for any lapses or any slips.
No, sir, but it was really, really learning,
Thank you
and
so much. Thank you so much, madam.
we all, enrich with the good presentation, and it's always nice to talk to you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
sir. So
Thank you
we'll
so much.
meet,
Bye.
participants will
Bye.
be meeting at 2 o'clock. Thank you all. Have a nice day, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am.